give that vote.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Rhino.
The meatloaf!
The meatloaf! What's up? Kings, the beam! Beam! What's up? 5 beams in a row. Lots to talk about. Kings back at it tomorrow in Boston. See the title of the show, talking about Keon Ellis. We've had a few days to decompress and go through some of the stats on the 5-game winning streak, the 6 games since Doug Christie has taken over. And the season before that with Mike Brown, are there any trends? Are there things that we're seeing? Do they really matter? One thing does that I've seen, and that has to do with Keon Ellis's minutes. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Had a chance to go to Stockton last night. That was a blast. Huge thanks to everyone in Stockton and the organization for the hospitality. The game was a lot of fun. Be back down there on Saturday. I don't know if that game's going to go off. I would be surprised, actually, at this point, if that game goes off, just because of what's going on in LA. We talked about it earlier this week, talked about it on the recorded podcast. Make sure you're subscribed on Apple and Spotify. She got a King's Court there yesterday, just a little one. Talking about Doug Christie and the X's and the O's, but things are the worst they've ever been in Los Angeles in terms of a wildfire, in terms of a disaster of this magnitude. I mean, the Palisades, my goodness, what can you say? Talked about it again yesterday. What else is there to say? It's cliche, but thoughts and prayers, not only to those that have been displaced, but to the first responders, those who have been affected by this. I'm sure somebody here knows somebody that's been displaced by that fire. I know some people that have been displaced by that fire. And it seemed like this morning the winds calmed down a little bit. So hopefully they can get it under control. To think about that fire jumping PCH and burning the houses on the ocean, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. So anyways, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much. I want to try to keep it a little bit light, but if you do want to talk about the fire, we can do that as well, because certainly it is very, very topical. But back to what I was saying, the Kings play the South Bay Lakers on Saturday. So some NBA games are being rescheduled. JJ Redick lost his house. Think about that. Lost his house. Incredible stuff. Sad stuff. Anyways, let's pull it together. Let's have a fun day. We're going to talk about Keon. We're going to talk about the Kings. They are in Boston as we speak. And Doug Christie, he's got some decisions to make. We might do a little wrestling segment here as well. And I think we're going to, maybe mix in a Kings element to it. We'll pose that question to you here in a bit. But let's get it going on a Thursday. You got college football playoff tonight, too. How about that? Football is back. Court is in session on If You Don't Like That.
Grant and Ryan break it down. It's Sacktown, we're the crown.
Needs to be more aggressive on the offensive end, but this is the kind of Williams, the D-line. Bucks, goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that.
And welcome into the Kings studio, or Kings Court studios. Ryan in Sacktown with you. Hope your day's going okay. Thursday, we are 1 day away from some more Kings basketball. Boston has been resting as well. They've had a couple of days off. Is that going to be a good thing or a bad thing for the Kings? We've got an update on De'Aaron Fox. Does it look like he's going to play in this one? How is Doug Christie going to work the lineups out? We've got some audio from him on that. And then also the birthday boy yesterday, Keon Ellis. We're going to hear from him at practice. So what's going on? Let me know what you're doing, where you're watching the show from. Give us a big thumbs up. We would greatly appreciate it. Only show today on the platform. Grant's going to take the day off. So now is the time to get in, call the show, use the QR code. Would love to hear from you. The link is also in the chat. We'll put it there for you again. If you want to get up in here and come give me your thoughts on what's going on here in Sacramento. This basketball team, toughest test of the last few weeks coming up, maybe the toughest test of the season coming up tomorrow in Boston, an early game for us because that's obviously the East Coast, playing the world champs. The world champs. I don't know what poses a bigger challenge for the Kings. Is it the matchups or the style of basketball that Boston plays? It's going to be really interesting to see. And I've also pulled some stats on what the Kings have done really well over the past 5 games, besides just hustling. And it shows, and it's also shows who is just really maybe more important to this team than we thought. And maybe a reason Mike Brown possibly was not getting it right. It's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback on that, but Keon Ellis, you look at his numbers, especially when you're able to quantify the things that he does that don't show up in the normal categories on a stat sheet. They jump off the damn page at you. So we're going to go through all of that. Excited to be here. We're here for 90 minutes on the Kings court. And we're going to talk about Stockton too. That was my first time getting down this season. And great experience as always. And got to talk with a number of people within the organization there. Got to talk to some familiar faces that you would know around the Kings as well. Although Stockton did not win that one, I wasn't necessarily looking for wins and losses. I was more looking at the guys that could be playing roles in a future or in the future for the Kings. And I've got some takes on them. We'll go over the numbers. We'll also go over somebody who really caught my eye last night, somebody to keep your eye on, in my opinion. So let's go to the phones first, then we will check the chat. I'm guessing, I have not looked. It's got to be Corn Dog. No, it's Dorian. What's up, Dorian? How you doing, buddy?
What's up, Ryan? Great to see you, man.
Good to see you, brother. What's happening?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. I've been watching a little bit of you and Grant and stuff like that, and just want to kind of call in and get a little bit of my thoughts, specifically within these last, 6 games.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate what happened to Mike Brown and stuff like that, but it just seems like the players are having just a lot more fun with Doug. And I think Doug is a kind of a player's coach, right? Where he's a little younger than Mike Brown. He relates a lot, more to the players and stuff like that. And I think they've kind of bought in to a little bit of what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's still the honeymoon phase, right? Where vibes are high. It's really cool to see how, during games and stuff like that, when the camera kind of pans to Doug and he's hugging his players. I think the Kings social media put out something the other day, and you could read Doug's lips, where he says something to Keon and Domas, where he says something along the lines of, like, I love you guys, or something like that. So it seems like the locker room, the vibes are high. The offense is free flowing. It seems like it's not as complex, like, based on some interviews and stuff like that. But, I'm really interested, Ryan. Do you think the Kings are 5-0? Or within these last, 6 games, are the Kings 5-1 without, they've gotten a lot of help, right? The Mavs, no Kyrie, no Luka, no Embiid, no Ja. The Warriors aren't doing super well this year, but no Kuminga, no Jimmy Butler. Are the Kings 5-1 with these other teams at full strength?
Oh, I have no idea, Dorian.
Yeah.
It's kind of, teams are never at full strength. And really, if we look back at the last couple of years for the Kings, it seems like more times than not when the Kings play the heavy hitters, they're without somebody, right?
Sure.
So it's hard to say. Now, tomorrow, I think we'll be able to answer that. I think Grant and Jerry said it yesterday, and I agree with them. It's a measuring stick game.
Yeah,
So I think we can better kind of address that tomorrow. What I do know is the way that they played in terms of their hustle,
sure.
the way they played together, the defense, that translates no
Yes.
matter who you're playing. Look at what Domas did against Bam Adebayo.
Oh man,
That's
yeah,
the best he has ever guarded Bam
for sure.
in his career. So who knows? I think that's why everybody's kind of looking tomorrow with
Yeah.
an excited eye.
Yeah, totally. And from the eye test, like I said, just looking at it from being at a game a couple times and just like watching from TV, it like I said, just looks like the vibes are high and they're kind of connecting. The ball's moving around.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, they're making their shots, which I don't know what the difference was with Mike Brown and now with Doug. I mean, the three's fallen. Keegan is still obviously struggling offensively, but he's looking like he's getting a little bit more rhythm. Kevin coming off the bench is kind of hitting a little bit of his threes too. So it's kind of really interesting to see how everything's becoming a little bit more connected within these last 6 games. I'm interested to see what they do at the trade line. If they do, I mean, hopefully they kind of do something. I think this team still needs to be improved. Who knows what that piece will be or what those pieces will be. But I would hope that Monty kind of makes a move as he hasn't done the last couple of years at the trade deadline. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Hopefully they play well against the Celtics. It'll be interesting to see how Fox becomes a little bit more immersed without him, being in the lineup the last 2 games and how that affects the Kings offensively, obviously with minutes and Keon and stuff like that. But nonetheless, hope they get a win. I don't really watch the NBA besides the Kings, obviously who they play, but I really like Peyton Pritchard. I think he's a solid bench.
Oh, he's
player.
really good bench player.
I don't know why he hasn't been in the 6-man conversation. Again, I don't watch the NBA besides when the Kings play, so I don't know why that hasn't really been. But he's like, man, every time he comes on the floor, man, he's just like dynamic. He makes his shots, he makes his threes. He's a really good defender. So I don't know if you can kind of speak on that, but he's a hell of a player every time I watch him play.
Yeah, for sure. I will talk about that here in a few minutes. Good hearing from you, dude. What's been going on down your way?
Yeah, nothing much, man. Just, having a good time, obviously watching the Kings, staying healthy, exercising. Business is going really well. I work at Hewlett Packard in Roseville. I'm the fitness program manager, so that's my role. So, man, I just love talking everything healthy.
So, hey, you work out the workers at Hewlett Packard?
No, I don't. I don't work out with the workers, so it's not like that where, you're the personal trainer or whatever. It's more of a corporate fitness role. But, man, it's really cool. I really enjoy it. I've been in health and fitness my whole career, so I love it. Yeah,
nice.
I love everything. I love everything health and wellness, man. It's amazing. I could talk about it all day.
Your alma mater got a really big recruit.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Yeah, for sure. Sacramento State. Obviously, I'm a former student athlete and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see. Obviously, every time there's a new change, right? With Mike Brown, then Doug, and then you have Coach Marion, who just came from Las Vegas, I want to say. So it's new times for the university. Obviously, you've talked about it on the show and stuff like that with the Kings, or not the Kings, but the Sacramento State possibly building a new stadium and stuff like that, and that whole thing with the Pac-12 and stuff like that, which I still don't think they'll get in, but just to have Sacramento State kind of being talked about and stuff like that, I think it's just really cool. It's from when I played to now, it's so much different, man. I mean, it's still, campus is still growing. It's still, a commuter school. But it's really cool to see a president be kind of like all in on sports, which is
for sure.
Which is really cool to see. That could be good and bad for people that don't really care about athletics and stuff like that. But nonetheless, for all the student athletes, it's a really cool time to be a student athlete at Sacramento State. And I'm always wishing for the university. And we talked about this before, when you're on campus and then you want to make it better than what you want to make it better than what it was when you were a student or when 100%. I was, you being a San Diego State alumni and stuff like that, and a former basketball player as well. So it's really cool stuff, It's we'll see what happens and stuff like that. But nonetheless, man, go Kings. And if Michael or Ryan, if you ever need anything, brother, just always feel free to give me a message, man. Always here for you in the community and stuff like that. If you're watching, like and subscribe and check it out if you don't like that.
Appreciate that, brother. Dorian, kicking us off. I love it. In fact, we're going to get to the questions in the chat really quick. I want to say this to all of you. I meant to start the show this way. And then we started talking about the wildfires. So I'm not going to say who it was because I don't want to do that. But I was talking to somebody last night at the Stockton Kings game. That is a part of that organization, and they consume the programming here on If You Don't Like That. They consume the Kings court. They consume some of the game day coverage. And you know what they said to me? They were like, I love the community. The community. They talked about the chat. They talked about the personalities, how the conversation gets forwarded, how everybody that comes in here for the most part makes the chat, makes the conversation better. That's not a testament to me. That's a testament to all of you. That's incredible. It freaking floored me. So take a victory lap. Thank you all for making this what it is. Take a damn victory lap. And by the way, we're not done. You're going to have way more laps to go. We're just getting warmed up. But to hear that from somebody, from a viewer, that's incredible. That's all of you, not me. That's all of you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Pat yourselves on the freaking back. You deserve it. All right, let's get back to the chat as we talk a little bit more about the Kings. Jets mom, curious about trade options. Well, we're a little curious too. The names that we've been hearing, definitely there's a little bit of smoke to those. Cameron Johnson, Kyle Kuzma in the past. I think that has cooled. But here's what I do know. The Kings are looking. They're looking extensively. Now, what they're willing to give up, that's what nobody knows. So if I'm looking at what this team really needs, there's two areas of need. You need somebody that can play behind and play with Domas Sabonis. I think that is very, very important. The second area of need that this team needs is a solid backup point guard. A solid backup point guard. Somebody who can make shots, somebody who is very good with the pick and roll, somebody that can put pressure on the defense and distribute. Now, those guys don't grow on trees, but if the Kings were to acquire those two positions, those two types of players, they would fit in seamlessly with what Doug Christie's trying to do. But you have to give up something to get something. So I would expect, we've done shows the last couple trade deadlines, and it's been crickets. And we've been expecting the Kings to at least make a move on the fringes. And really, it has not happened. I don't think it's going to be the same this trade deadline. Now, Cam Johnson, I know that is a name that is well respected and liked both amongst the fan base and within the organization, but the cost of Cam Johnson is high. It is high right now. Teams know it. There's not just the Kings that want that guy. So the question is, can you get him or can you get somebody like him without overpaying? Jets mom, the guy that I would love to see on this team, and Jerry Reynolds is with me on this, John Collins. If you could get John Collins from Utah and maybe Colin Sexton, maybe. I really like that combination. To Dorian's point about Peyton Pritchard, he's in that class of his own, of just kind of these hybrid guys that can do a little bit of everything and they make their teams better. He's in that TJ McConnell discussion. He's in that Alex Caruso discussion. Nothing flashy, just straight, good, solid basketball that makes your team better. So we'll keep talking about trades as the show goes on. Thanks for checking in. Always shits on Domas's defense, although it's really good just because all those athletic guards blow by the backcourt defense, jump over him. Who's shitting on Domas's defense? Who's doing that? It's not happening here. Come on. Flores, what's up, dude? Is Keon the key to the winning streak? He's in the conversation. If you read the post that I put out on X today, If you look at the Kings plus minus numbers, their net ratings, their individual net ratings this season, Domas Sabonis leads the Kings with a positive 3.9. You know who's second to Domas? Keon Ellis at 3.8. Think about that for a second. Keon's not getting that by scoring 40, 50 points a night. That's Keon doing the little things that don't show up on the stat sheet. In fact, he's doing the opposite. He is getting that positive net rating for the most part by defending. Now, he can shoot the three. He's the best three-point shooter statistically on this team this year, if you qualify it by attempts. So he is a massive key to it. And with De'Aaron Fox possibly coming back, what's that do? I think the odd man out is going to be Kevin Huerter. That's what I think. I think it's going to be Kevin Huerter. Not sure what Lau is talking about. Let's go to this one. This is the only place for Kings fans to say whatever they want, but that's no secret. Thank you. It just really caught me off guard because it's one of those things, like if you're a day oneer, if you are one of the OGs around here, and you remember when we started this thing out, I said I want it to be a community where people can come, people can have their brands. I want it to be someplace where when you come to this show and you're in the chat, you know each other and you guys are going back and forth. And that's exactly what happens on a daily basis. And through that, and through some of your calls and moments on this show, it's turned into this little community of personalities, and it makes the show better. Even if you're a smartass, even if somebody like Corn Dog, right? Everybody looks forward to these different little things, and to hear that from somebody, especially somebody that's like, we're watching this thing with a completely different eye. We're looking at certain things, but then if we come in and watch your show or watch some of the programming with you and Grant, it gives us a different perspective, and it's fun too because of the personalities. So I freaking love it. Thank you all. I should have started the show with there. My bad not doing that. Alex, what's up? Not worried about the minutes distribution, the Fox coming back? Just give away Huerter's minutes. It's easy. Yeah, I guess. I don't know if it's that easy per se. Cam looking likely to get dealt. Yeah. And look, this is going to be, to me, a very active trade deadline. And I think there's a possibility you might see some names that you don't expect getting dealt. And we can hit that here in a little bit. Heard the name Cam Thomas mentioned once regarding the Kings. That sounds nice to me. The Kings were trying to get him on draft night. Now, the Kings weren't just focused in on Cam. They had multiple targets. The plan going into draft night was to trade that pick. They were prepared to make the pick with Devin Carter, but they did not get a deal they wanted. They make Devin Carter, but they're keeping an eye on things. And with the NBA, GMs are not stupid. There is an inflation at times in the trade market. There's a shift in the supply and demand when a team is more desperate than another team. They know that they might be able to squeeze out a little bit more from that team. And arguably, the Kings are in that position. Arguably. Sam Amick was on this morning with Carmichael Dave. It's one of the only segments that I listen to in local media, because I like to have my own opinions. I don't want them influenced by anybody, but I respect the hell out of Dave and Jason. I think they're both great guys. They do a great show. Their segment with Sam is always incredible. And Sam talked about this morning how this front office is kind of looking themselves in the mirror too. They realize that they are just as responsible for the lack of depth, the imbalance on this bench, and possibly to a degree, Mike losing his job. Now, there was other reasons that Sam went into there, but it was really interesting. So what I'm saying is Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox, their backs are against the wall. They've got to make something happen. Now, can you make the right thing happening without changing the chemistry and the makeup of this team dramatically? We will see. Peter, heard the Cam. Yeah, we got to that one. Cam Johnson for Devin Carter. Look, I don't know if anybody's untouchable. I don't. I really don't. Rhina? What the hell is Rhina? You're going to call me Rhina? Rhina, huh? Everybody around the league and a lot of Kings fans too. Yes, you guys are talking to each other. I love it. Are the Kings really thinking about trading another rookie? Who's saying that? Who is saying that? Kings fans are incredible. Yes, they are. Best and most knowledgeable in the association. That's why getting a boo from a Kings fan or getting booed by the Kings fans actually means something. You know, if you go to LA, if you go to any of these other markets, it's different when their fans start booing. When Sacramento boos, you know you've done something wrong. That's like when your parents hit you with the, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. And you just kind of like freeze up and you're like, shit, that's the worst, right? So, Ron, welcome in. I was in on Cam Johnson, but after thinking about it, he hurt too much. Look at his career games played each year. That's a good point. We ran those down a couple of weeks ago. Good point by you. Preston, Malik is the scores version of them. I don't know if I agree with that. Now we're just getting out there with comparisons. We're just getting out there. So, title of the show is, will Doug Christie lean on Keon Ellis upon De'Aaron Fox's return? And there is definitely a correlation between Keon and having the beam on. There's no doubt about it. It was probably one of Mike Brown's fatal flaws when he dug his heels in before he was fired, still trying whether to make a point to the front office, to the owner, whatever it may be, or just trying to find something. But the fact that Keon was infrequently getting minutes, the fact that Keon Ellis, think back to this. Keon Ellis made 2 bad plays in a row that ended a quarter. After that, Keon Ellis almost didn't play for 2.5 games. I went back and I watched the tape. There were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mistakes worse than those 2 that Keon had made in that game. So did Keon become kind of this pseudo scapegoat for Mike Brown? I don't know. You would have to ask Mike Brown. But the question that all Kings fans are asking right now is, why was Keon not playing more consistently? And as we've seen, since Mike Brown has exited, and due to some injuries too, between Keegan Murray and De'Aaron Fox, we have seen that Keon Ellis, as he plays more, he gets better. The more minutes he plays, the harder he plays. And in turn, this Sacramento team has been better. On top of that, having Keon Ellis playing defensively, I asked Jerry yesterday, does he seem like he's playing bigger than he was last year? What that means is, can he guard other guys effectively that are bigger than him? Maybe a position up from him. Can he do it? And Jerry said yes, and I completely agree with Jerry. Do you know what that does? That allows the Kings to hide DeMar DeRozan a little bit more defensively, and let's not shy away from it. The Kings have been doing that to a degree this season. That also allows you to let De'Aaron Fox hang off a little bit, take the off guard, be able to gamble here and there, play center field, play free safety, do what he does best, shoot the gaps and get steals. You can't have De'Aaron playing his best defensively without having a guy like Keon that can take the best guard on the court, and another guy like Keegan to a degree as well. So the fact that Keon Ellis has been sitting here this entire time, and it's just now that we are really starting to see him peak. And don't get me wrong, he had a good impact last year. And to be fair to Mike Brown, Keon had a bad preseason. Keon did not look like himself. this preseason. So I get it. But you know what? The Kings didn't look like themselves either. Mike Brown didn't coach like himself either. So that was an across the damn board problem. So now that you might have De'Aaron Fox coming back, let's see what happens with Doug Christie. And I said it yesterday. Doug Christie has Sacramento, the team, the fan base, ready to run through a damn wall for him. But now can the X's and the O's, the mid-game adjustments, the coaching, can those catch up to the communication, to the motivation? Can that happen? It's going to have to happen for this team to continue on the trajectory that they have the past 5 games. As we said earlier in the show, De'Aaron Fox yesterday getting some light work in at practice with Luke Laux. It's been a pain management thing for De'Aaron. Structurally, that right glute, whatever they're calling it, right glute contusion. Structurally, it's fine. It's sore as hell. Have any of you ever fallen on your tailbone? I said it after the fall. He is so lucky that that happened on one side. I'm so glad because of the way his body is, how he's a little bit more lean. I'm so glad he didn't come straight down on the middle of his tailbone, because then you could be talking about being without your star point guard for a good 6 to 8 weeks at minimum, and there's nothing you can do about it. You've got to let it heal naturally. It's a painful injury. So the fact that he came down on one side, that's a positive. The negative is, does it negate his biggest strength, which is his speed? Do the Kings need to be cognizant of where De'Aaron's at? Is an 80% De'Aaron Fox that doesn't have his best attribute, which is speed, at 100%, does that help or hurt the Kings? Because you need De'Aaron getting to the hoop, getting to the paint. When De'Aaron's three-point attempts are in the same neighborhood as his assists, the Kings are usually playing their best basketball. So how Doug Christie, how this team navigates this, especially because you have now won 5 in a row. You've got guys that have rhythm playing together, that are building on each win, building on each practice, thinking less and playing more, something I told you a couple of weeks ago, or I told you about a week ago after I spoke to one of my sources. Clearly it's happening because you see it happening on the court. You see it in the record. Here was Doug after practice yesterday, just taking some questions and talking about what's next for this team.
How have you changed that up, if at all?
I'm just trying to simplify what I see, especially when you in this type of position. You know, it's like I need things that make me comfortable enough to lead them, and then at the same time, I want them to have the confidence in what I'm saying. So just try to simplify what they do, and we've been tweaking, and we continue to tweak to more stylistically what my personality is, and that's really it. I mean, this is all about them and their talent. That's really like when they make shots and we win. Like, yeah, I look like great, but when you don't, then I'll take those bullets, and that's all good. So it's about them. It's about them feeling good, playing good.
So I'm not a big fan of player comps, but I think this comp is fair. When Doug Christie looks in the mirror, he sees Keon Ellis. When Keon Ellis looks in the mirror, he might not know it, but Doug Christie is staring him back in the face. They play a very similar style. Now, Jerry Reynolds pointed out one key difference between the two. Doug was a much better playmaker than Keon Ellis is. That is fair indeed. But you've got to think, if anybody on this Kings staff can value what a guy like Keon Ellis brings to the table and how he can elevate a team without always showing up on the score sheet, it's Doug Christie. Who else would it be? It's got to be Doug. You know his teammates believe in him. You know Keon's confidence is growing. He said something after practice yesterday that just made me want to run around like a little schoolgirl all giddy. When he was asked a question, what's better, scoring 30 points or playing defense like you did the other night? And his answer just got me going. I love it. We're going to play it in a little bit. Here's Doug Christie again.
Things are, kind of on the up and up.
No, Sean, I'm smart enough to know that, like, you're going to have ups and downs. So, like, we're not focused on the outcome. We're focused on the process, and the byproduct is normally a good outcome. So if we go out and we play hard, if we go out and we compete at a high level, we go out and we share the basketball, we go out and we're touching people and we're physical, whatever happens at the end of the night at that, we're going to live with that and then continue to improve. So, like, your question, I guess, is like the finality of it.
And improving they are. Here's the Western Conference standings as we sit today. Again, we can capture the Kings in one screenshot with the rest of the West. They're climbing. Anybody that wants to come in here and make the argument that they've played bad teams, they played teams without stars, everybody does it in the NBA. You can only deal with what's in front of you, and the Kings have dealt with it pretty well. In fact, that game against Miami, that's a game the Kings lose. The game against the 76ers, that's a game the Kings lose earlier this season. They string together two huge defensive runs. They suck it up. They're on the second night of a back-to-back in the case of Miami, and they gassed Miami. They had more in the tank than Miami. Now, partially because the starters got to sit most of the fourth quarter against Golden State. But you get my point. There's something different brewing. There's a simplicity. And with that simplicity comes that concept that I said earlier. Less thinking, more playing. Keon's going to talk about it here in a second. Doug again.
Get Devin time and Keon minutes. Like, how are you going to go about that?
I mean, you just have, Fox is Fox. So he comes back and he's one of our main guys. So he's going to play. Everything after that is really about trying to keep our best players on the floor. Is it going to bite into people's minutes? Yeah, but there's another part of being a teammate is supporting. And if there was enough, I'd play all you guys, but there's not. And we have to find that fine rhythm, and it can be difficult at times. But I will say that the guys have supported each other. If you look at our bench and see the joy that they're feeling for their teammates, that's everything, because I'm not playing, but when we're in practice, we push each other. When we're shooting games, we push each other. And when we're in the game, we support each other.
Sorry, I don't care about the A's. Bad timing. How you lose your credential there. Anyways, what you're looking at is the Kings season statistics. Right side of the screen, team statistics. Left side of the screen, individual statistics. Let's look at the Kings' best players by the numbers. And you've got to take it with a grain of salt because you need to realize the minutes played too. So if you see Doug McDermott with a plus minus of 1.7, okay, well, Doug's barely played any minutes. He's played in garbage time. You have to realize you have to put a qualifier in there with minutes. So by the numbers, by the plus minus, the net rating by players, your best player is Domantas Sabonis. Any surprise there with what he does? He's the motor of this team. He's a plus 3.9. Who's after that? Keon Ellis. 3.8. Keon Ellis, I don't believe, is even scoring or averaging double digits this season. I would have to check that. In fact, let's check that. I know we have 6 averaging double digits, I believe, but points this season, if we go there, yeah, Ellis is not even averaging double-digit points. You've got Fox, DeRozan, Sabonis, Monk, Keegan. You got 5 averaging double. I thought it was 6. Okay, so Kevin and Keon are on the fringe. Let's go back to net rating if we're going to look at that as Sorry, Progressive. You can come in and argue with me about this. So if we're going by net rating, which judges everything a basketball player does individually while being part of the team, Sabonis, Ellis, Monk, DeRozan, Keegan, Lyles cut Doug out and probably cut Trey out too because of the minutes. Trey's been out a ton because of injury. Doug barely plays. And then there's De'Aaron at 0.7. Then there is De'Aaron. Back to Coach Christie.
Get Devin time and
Excuse me, Keon Ellis.
Game where you played such a huge role, 14 deflections. Is that about as good as it has been since you've been in the NBA?
I would say that was a pretty big game. I think that was. I mean, I've been in the game in closing moments before, but I think the impact that I had on that one probably would be the biggest, some would say. But I guess you could say that.
Is that kind of a moment like that supersede even like a 30-point game or a big scoring night?
Oh, that is a great question. I don't know. I love defense, so. But scoring 30 is also nice too. I think they're both up there, but honestly, I think just the win, the way we won that game and the fight that we had, is what capped it all. Honestly.
What's the main difference for you guys under Doug these last 6 games, in your eyes?
I think we're just out there playing basketball. We obviously have our plays and our staples that we stick to, but a lot of the times, like, we're just it's kind of off script. Like, we're just playing like and just reading off of whatever you guys are doing. Like, oh, Fox is coming off the screen, Malik's coming off, or he's setting or whatever. And, we're just flowing. So just playing, our whatever type of basketball we are, and just trying to read others and and just going out there and playing hard.
Is that different from previous?
I think previous it was a little more. If this guy is here, do this, and whatever. But now it's just a lot of. You make the read and kind of whatever you feel, because you're the ones out there, whatever you're feeling, that's what you do.
As a player, is that refreshing?
I guess you could say so. I mean, because when you're out there and you do whatever, I mean, there's still a little bit of that mixed in even before, like, you're making reads depending on what the defense does and whatever they throw at you. So kind of reacting off of them a little bit and then
So that's what made me run around. I love defense. I don't know if any of you hooped in the past, if you played competitive basketball. That's the player that I was. I loved defense. I could shoot, but defense was my thing. You are a different breed when it's defense that gets you going, and you need a couple of guys on the team like that. And let me translate the last part of what Keon Ellis said for you. We're thinking less and playing more, which is a good thing. Now, with that comes the adjustment part, because you are now going to be playing some of the best teams in the NBA. Joe Mazzulla and the Boston Celtics, the reigning NBA champions. You're looking at the Kings team season stats right now. I'm going to throw you some stats here in a second about the last 5 games. You're going to be playing the Milwaukee Bucks. Houston is going to be rolling into Sacramento. You're going to have to adjust in game. That's going to be the challenge for Doug Christie and this staff. I thought they did a good job up until the Miami game. The Miami game was a disaster when it came to adjusting to the zone offense. I can't put that on the coaches. I can't put that on the players. I wasn't in the huddle. I can only judge based off of what I watched, just like all of you. But that Kings team fell down 16 points because they could not crack the zone defense. And they didn't even try different methods to crack the zone defense. There was only a couple times the ball got into the middle of the zone. And when it did, Domas either made a shot or a turnover. So it's a perfect example of when a team, a very good team, Boston, remember what they did to Luka and the Mavs in the finals last year? some incredible game planning, some of the best game planning and execution I've ever seen, especially in game 1. And I stand by that. I said that after I saw it that night or the next day when we had a show. But can you find a way to crack those things? Can you make that adjustment? And I think that's the big question that is hanging over the head of the quote unquote Doug Christie era here in Sacramento. It's a fair question in a sense, but it's also not a fair question. Doug's coached 6 games. So it becomes a fair question once you get through Boston, once you get through Chicago, once you get through Milwaukee, once you're back home against Houston. These are the next games where we're going to have to find out the answers to those questions. Here's Keon again.
Yeah, I mean they're a great team, defending champs obviously. So we know it's not going to be easy going out there and trying to get a win on their court. But I mean the way that they play, you know, they're going to shoot a lot of threes, going to space you out. They don't play like a lot of teams, so you know, it'll be something different. And you know, I think we just have to, you know, come out the same way we have during this little run we've had, and get off to a good start to give ourselves a chance.
You guys see a lot of things throughout the NBA season. Basketball can change so quickly. To go on a skid like you did and not turn it around so quickly like that, does that even take you guys by surprise to see it turn around so fast?
I don't know, honestly. Like, I couldn't really say. I'm really just more so game by game with it. I mean, when you look at it, it is crazy. I don't know how many we lost in a row, but to go from that to winning this many in a row, yeah, you kind of just wonder, like, what was the disconnect and, you know, what was going wrong. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to stay in the moment, and I mean, we're winning right now, so.
By the way, just a quick side note, I know we're going to talk Stockton in a few minutes. I've been chatting back and forth with somebody down there via text message. As of now, there's no plans to cancel Saturday's game against LA. So if you have a ticket to that one, Bronny James coming to town, it is still on. They also have a card show going on simultaneously as the game. It's the event going on. So they also told me it's the most, it's the best-selling game of the year so far. They have surpassed ticket sales for all other games for this one. So get a ticket if you don't have one yet. We're going to talk about Stockton here in a second as well as I bring you back in. So these are the things that are kind of hanging over the Kings' head. And we go back to what Doug Christie was asked. What are you going to do when Fox comes back? How do you integrate him? Well, it's Fox. You got to play him. Don't disagree with it. But you also have to play Keon Ellis. So some of you have said it's going to be Kevin Huerter. I think his minutes get reduced. I definitely do. Can you get creative, though? Can Devin Carter play a little bit bigger than he actually is? We've seen him been able to do it somewhat from time to time defensively. Offensively, it's not there. Devin's going to have to take some time. Offense is going to be a work in progress for him, which is fine. This team needs defense. Offense will come along. Now, you got to keep an eye on that. Make sure it develops. Here's some stats over the last 5 games. Points are up 6.5. You've got 6 players. That's where I was thinking about 6 players. Over the last 5, you have 6 players averaging double digits, which is important. Your turnovers, your opposition, you're turning them over 3 more times per game. Your offensive rating is 5th in the NBA. Your defensive rating is 4th in the NBA over the last 5 games. Possessions, check this out. 4th in the NBA. Do you know why possessions are important? That means the Kings are playing with pace. When you play with pace, you get more shots. And then you also couple in the fact that the Kings have been getting to the free throw line too. When you get to the free throw line, that does not qualify as a shot. So the fact that your free throws are not dramatically low and you are still, over the past 5 games, in the top 5 in possessions, that's something to talk about. That is really something to talk about. Assist to turnover ratios. Let's go over these. Malik Monk and Domas Sabonis, they're both right around 3 point, or excuse me, those are their net ratings. Domas, his assist turnover ratio, 3.9 right now. It's good. It's really good. That's on the season. Foxy, His is excuse me. Domas's is 2.3. 2.3. Monk is 2.4. Foxy's is 2.94 over the last 5 games. So that's that many assists to each turnover. Those are good numbers. We already went over the net ratings. We've gone over the net ratings between the 2-man matchups as well. So the numbers have been really good without De'Aaron Fox. Really good. Now, what's this going to do if De'Aaron Fox comes back and things slow down a little bit? What's Doug Christie going to do then? Because there's this whole rhetoric going around about team. We have to play like a team. And De'Aaron Fox never plays against his team, but his style of play is not conducive always to team basketball, especially if he is not making shots. So some of you said, I don't know why Keegan's starting to shoot better. Why is Trey starting to shoot better? It's because they're touching the ball. It's because the ball is moving. Think about just in any walk of life. If you're being included in something, don't you feel more comfortable? You feel like you're part of it. You're contributing. You're in the flow. You're in the zone with everybody else. There's something to be said when a group of people, whether it's in basketball or anything else, when it's a group acting as one and feeling like one. And when you watch the Kings over the past 5 games, that's what you see. It jumps off the damn page at you. So I'm excited for this matchup in Boston. I really am, but I'm also very curious about what Doug Christie is going to do with the starting lineup. The Devin Carter piece is interesting to me because Devin does something on this team that only a few guys can do. So I don't know how much you can cut his minutes. Now, granted, he hasn't been getting a ton of minutes, but the minutes he's getting, he's being asked to just go all out, and he's doing it. And he's been offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding. In fact, by the way, the Kings are number 1 over the past 5 games in defensive rebounding percentage. 77% of the time, the Kings are coming down with the rebound, which means teams are not getting second opportunities. That has been a bugaboo at times for this team. It's what got their asses bounced from the playoffs 2 years ago. So, good things happening. Let's see if they can do it against the better teams. I'm looking forward to it. So let's get you guys in on the conversation. We're going to talk Stockton here in a little bit. I have been ignoring the chat, so let's hit it. BJ, contagious intangibles equals winning. Agree. Rhino getting deep. Basketball is life. Dude, I love basketball. Give me some basketball. You ask me.
What do you guys want to talk about?
Basketball, Cody. I want to talk about hoops. Sacramento Kings hoops. Elijah, DeMar shoots threes when people say he doesn't shoot threes. He has shot more threes as of late. And Progressive and I, we were on the same page a couple of days ago. Him having his toe on the line while shooting a three, you got to get in the man's head about that. DeMar, you're a veteran. You know better than that. He knows that's the worst shot in basketball. That's got to get cleaned up. If he's going to shoot a three, it's got to be a three. Don't have your toe on the line. And I get it's a little bit more complicated, especially when these guys are on the baseline and in the corners, because some of them, their feet are almost too big to be behind the three-point line and not touching the baseline or touching the out-of-bounds line. So I get it. It's different. Let's see. BJ talking about the fires. Prayers to Southern California. Amen. That is what we were hitting at the beginning. Tristan, yo, everyone. It's crazy down here. I'm on the border of an invac zone in Pasadena. Stay safe. Tristan, man, do what they say, brother. Do what they say. God, I started the show off with it. I'm praying for you, man, and everybody down there. You have to have spent time in Southern California, significant time, to really understand how that part of the state is built and understand that that part of the state, it's dry, it's barren, it's windy, it's perfect fire weather 360 days of the year. And if you do happen to get a fire, like here in Sacramento, if we have a grass fire, it's probably on flat land most of the time. I've seen them driving off of Highway 50, driving off of 80, in between Citrus Heights and Roseville. It happens, but it's flat land. It ain't flat down in SoCal. Getting to those places is incredibly difficult. It's terrifying. Tristan, I hope you guys are good, man. Thinking about you, brother. Yes, they're doing it's a card show night. So it's a card show and memorabilia night that they're going to be doing. Same night as the Kings and the South Bay Warriors. Damn, I miss Stanley calls in. I don't remember Stanley. The name sounds familiar, but I don't remember Stanley. Adam, that reporter trying to balk at Keon into saying something weird about Coach Brown, 100%. Keon caught on to that, 100%. And that reporter, he's not usually there. He was a part of the national media. So, yeah, he was. Notice how it's so funny how when you have a credential, you can almost never ask the direct question that you want to ask. You have to phrase it in a respectful way that has more of a positive tone rather than a negative tone. And that reporter did a good job of putting the question out there. But yes, it was obvious what he was trying to ask Keon. Very obvious. You guys talking about Fox, where he's at. Jonesy, once a player can consistently touch 30, they stop caring about defense. Yeah, not always. Not always. Saboner? Saboner. We've got Saboner smack in here. 3.9. Fox 0.7. Look, I put these up last week. Y'all came at me. This does not include last game, by the way. You all came at me when I said Fox does not make Sabonis better. Sabonis makes Fox better, though. I said, you know who does make each other better? Malik Monk and Domantas Sabonis. There's the numbers. Argue with me about it. Look at their net rating together this season. 6.1. Look at Fox and Sabonis's. Not nearly as high. 3.2. Sabonis and Monk make each other better. And it's not a personal attack at De'Aaron Fox. It's the type of basketball player that De'Aaron Fox is. And when I say it's the type of basketball player, and here's the other side of those, you can keep looking at some additional numbers per the two-man combinations. You have to understand when I say basketball player with De'Aaron Fox, it's more complicated than dude likes to shoot. It's also because of the way that defenses guard him. One thing that Fox isn't particularly great at is using his screens. And part of that is by design. Part of that is also because of the way that teams guard him. What is Domantas Sabonis incredibly good at? Setting screens. You know who's good at really using screens? Malik Monk. You know who's really good at the pick roll? Malik Monk. And he's really good with Sabonis at it. Fox is not a pick and roll guy. Many times you don't want another guy around Fox because you don't want to bring another guy in that area of the floor. So you're not going to send Domas out there as much. So there's less opportunities for those two to collaborate together, to use each other better. But that's why I say, if you're going to run an offense that is predicated off of the pick and roll, that is predicated off of ball movement and synergy, that's why I have been saying a guard like De'Aaron Fox doesn't really fit in that system. You either have to fit the system to De'Aaron Fox, or you're going to have something in the middle. And something in the middle is what we saw up until Malik Monk entered the starting lineup under Mike Brown. And even during some of those games, it was a little bit in the middle. So it's nothing against De'Aaron Fox. He's a special player. I just don't think he is the best player to take this team to the next level. And a lot of you don't like it, but the numbers bear it out. The numbers bear it out. You can sit here and tell me Fox gets 60. He can get 60 on a night. Okay, go back and watch the night he got 60 and look at what it did to the team aspect of basketball. And I'm not slighting De'Aaron here. He was on one. It's what any NBA team would do. They would sit back and let that guy play. Let him, quote unquote, cook. But a lot of times, it's either De'Aaron cooking and everybody else trying to do something, or it's De'Aaron not making shots, and now the rest of the offense is kind of funky and guys aren't touching the ball, and now the Kings offense is completely off. So again, not a personal thing against De'Aaron. It's the type of guard that he is. He is closer to a Westbrook, closer to a Harden, closer to one of those scoring guards than a true point guard who can score, if that makes any sense to you. So what I've been trying to say is it's either or. It's not both. It doesn't work. If you want De'Aaron Fox to be your guy, if you want De'Aaron Fox to lead this team into the next 4 or 5 years, and you think you can win with him, you have to bring in somebody better than De'Aaron Fox, because I don't think De'Aaron Fox is a number one. De'Aaron Fox is not a one. If he was a one, you would have seen signs of it before Sabonis got here. This team would have been in the playoffs, but not getting past the first round, second round. And we're not even talking about, the concerns about focus and the concerns about talking to the refs. And I get a lot of guys have those issues. That's something that's widespread in the NBA. But you've seen a couple game sample size that, look, this team can play pretty good without him. Now, granted, the competition was not as high, but what I'm saying is I think that is the type of offense that Mike Brown envisioned. That is the type of offense that when Monty McNair put this roster together, they envisioned. What they didn't envision was De'Aaron Fox taking so many damn threes last year. So the Kings have big decisions to make, some really big decisions. One decision that is very easy and not big, except it'll be really big for your taste buds, it's Bennett's Westside Grill in Rockland. Get to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. You can go check out all 3 of their locations here in the greater Sacramento area. Tonight at Bennett's, happy hour, 2 to 6 o'clock. There's sips and tastes. Will you make it out? Try to make it out this weekend for weekend brunch. If you can't, don't forget they also have prime rib Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. If you're thinking about possibly having a gathering a group party, an office get together, they can set aside one of their beautiful private dining rooms for you and accommodate you. If you want to have it at home, they can take care of you too. Hey, don't take it from me. Take it from the man, the owner, Brian Bennett.
I don't know about you, but if you're thinking about having a holiday party or a party of any kind, and you don't ask us to make our house smoked salmon, to grill our prime New York steak, to grill long stem artichokes, to make ahi pokey. What are you talking about? You're going to have a party and you're not going to call Bennett to have them take care of you? My goodness gracious. Give us a call. We can make this for Easter. We can make it for Christmas. We can make it for anybody's.
And you can go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com to get that number to give Brian a call. By the way, they do have a really good
the meatloaf!
They have a really good meatloaf. Some of you in the chat have pointed that out. So they got a little bit of everything. Bennett's prime cuts of seafood and steak. That is Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Huge thanks to them for sponsoring today's episode of The King's Court. Tristan, it is really hard doing a show right now, thinking about you being on the edge of an evac zone and what it's like down there. I spent my college years in San Diego, and I was a part of one really bad fire in San Diego and also a really bad fire that was in LA that was more north of where these fires are at. And I remember driving through the grapevine with both sides of the grapevine raging on fire, and it had not hopped the freeway, but praying for you, man. I've been watching. In fact, last night at the in the press room in Stockton, they had TV with a basketball game on, and they had KCAL on showing what's going on in the live news. So I hope everything down there is all good, y'all. I hope it is good. Sabonis is a Sabonet. Oh my gosh. We are just getting off the damn rails. He is consistent. Let's see yours. I would love to look into McNair's mind right now. He can make or break this team. I see so much legit potential. What's the one thing that De'Aaron Fox has made clear? And we've talked about it here over the past couple weeks a lot. He wants to win. He wants to win. Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox are going to be walking a high wire. In fact, I take that back. They're Nick Wallenda. They are walking a high wire blindfolded without that pole to keep you balanced as we speak, because you have no guarantee from De'Aaron Fox that he's going to be back in Sacramento after next year. In fact, he, through Rich Paul, and he, through his own words with Draymond Green on his podcast, has kind of said winning is everything. Winning. I need that sound drop by Charlie Sheen. Anyways, winning is what he wants. And I don't think that means just getting to the first round of the playoffs. I think he wants to be contending for championships. Now, if you want this team to contend for championships, you're going to have to take some risks. Look at the teams that were at the top of the NBA last year and the year before. They had to take some risks. Some of them paid off. Some of them have not paid off. Boston's paid off. That's for damn sure. Minnesota Timberwolves, not so sure theirs is paying off. The New York Knicks, my guy Patrick, somewhere in the middle. What I'm saying is Monty McNair could very easily, and let's not just put it on Monty and Wes. You also have Vivek Ranadive, who is weighing in heavily with all of these things. Heavily. They could make trades that could alter the future of basketball here in Sacramento to try to further improve this team right now and have it not work, and then have De'Aaron Fox walk away, or have De'Aaron Fox get down to the trade deadline before his contract expires and basically becomes a rental to where there's still going to be value, but not the value that he would have this summer, or maybe the value he has right now before this trade deadline. So it's almost like you have to, if you are Monty McNair, if you are Wes Wilcox, you almost have to make the decision on De'Aaron Fox before you start making any big moves. Because I'll ask all you this. Do you want to trade away Devin Carter this early? Do you want to trade away Keegan Murray? Now, I know Keegan only has a year left after this, but I think there's a decent chance you could retain Keegan. I know he's valued by some teams around the league. Do you want to make any of those big ass moves before knowing what the future is going to be with De'Aaron? In some ways, I feel like you almost have to make that decision ahead of time, because if you just work around the fringes right now on this team, you might make it a little bit better here, a little bit better there, but it's likely not going to be enough to take this team to a level that De'Aaron Fox wants to be at in terms of competing for a championship. And here's the other thing that De'Aaron Fox needs to do. He needs to look in the damn mirror. There's more that young man can do. It's not like this young man has maxed out his talent and he has left every inch, every bit of basketball effort and potential on the court. He's given everything he has as a player. There's got to be a different level to De'Aaron Fox, too. If you're sitting here and saying De'Aaron Fox has done everything he can do, then I disagree with you. So it goes both ways. So I kind of think you've got to make that decision now, because that's not, that is how you go to full blow up. And have it blow up in your face, where you start trading away pieces that you think could be a part of a role or a future in Sacramento to satisfy the interim urge to win now, and then have the biggest piece to winning now want out or to walk away and get nothing. That is a crazy spot. So yes, they are very, 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 very much in a corner right now. Like, everything's coming at them right now.
I'm gonna come at you like a spider monkey.
That's why they get paid the big bucks. And I will say this. I do think that Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox have to, on a subconscious level, if they look at their body of work here in Sacramento, they've got to look back and say, you know, we just fell behind the curve. We fell behind the curve. They overplayed their hand. They thought their hand was better than it really was when that team won 48 games and made the playoffs, because they really didn't do much to get better. In fact, they passed on opportunities to get better. And none of us know exactly what those opportunities were, but we do know this. The Mavericks were able to go out last year and make a couple of moves, giving up at most a first-round pick. And where did that take them? The NBA Finals. The Kings were ahead of the Mavericks at the trade deadline. The year before, the Lakers did the same thing. They went to the Western Conference Finals. They got D'Angelo Russell and Hachimura for not much. What I'm saying is, it's the little things along the way that didn't get done that have added up to this team being so unbalanced. So unbalanced. And whether that's all on Monty and Wes, and you don't know how much Vivek weighed in, there's a lot of different things that you have to take into account with that. But certainly, you've got to think that that is part of it. Adam, hey, Fox, all of us want to win as much as you do. Maybe this ends up like the J. Will for Bibby trade. We didn't think it was the right thing, but it ended up being the thing. Yeah, DSC, look, again, I go back to teams are taking risks. I mean, is there really any other risk? Is there any other player on this roster that you would say it's risky trading them away? Anybody other than De'Aaron Fox? To me, there's not, because I don't think Domantas Sabonis has the value that some people do. Grant thinks his value is tremendous. I don't. This is a great example. Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves, a guy like that who just does a little bit of everything, puts pressure on the defense, can make a shot, keeps the ball moving. You put him alongside Malik Monk. It's the idea. You remember Coachy, Pete Carril? It's the idea of that Princeton offense. Everybody plays together, which in turns makes those five playing as one better than the five playing on five against you. Five playing as five, excuse me, against you. It's that whole principle. And I think you can rehash it here. I think Doug is seeing you have some of those parts. Is there a little bit of a Domas, a little bit of a Vlade and Domas? Maybe a little bit, especially as that three keeps working its way into Domas's game. You've got Keon, and I'm not saying reconstruct that team, but what I am saying is that team had specific pieces to a puzzle that made them so great. And this team has these really nice, different, shiny pieces, but they're all the different puzzles. But you're starting to see, okay, well, maybe we can fit these two together. And oh, these three, yeah, you could do something with those. That's what I'm saying. So I just think Fox is that shiniest piece that's the furthest away from fitting with any of the pieces that together look pretty damn good. And remember, I've been saying this for a minute. I've been saying this before the 5-game win streak. So, Herder, Peja, no. No, don't do that to Peja. Don't do that to Peja. Anyways, hey, I want to talk before we get out. I want to talk about last night in the Stockton Kings. I was down in Stockton last night. Really good time. Got to catch up with some people in the organization. Got to see some decent basketball. Ultimately, Stockton lost last night to the Valley Suns. It was 111 to 102. It was a really competitive game. I want to highlight some of the things that I saw. The Kings tried to scratch and claw their way back at the end. In fact, this was one of the closing plays, a good play by them. That was Terry Taylor hitting the three. And he's a guy that I want to talk about. So let's talk overall about them last night. So no Boogie Ellis. And by the way, if you've not made it down to Stockton, get down there. It's a fun experience. You'll have a good time. There's faces you'll recognize. It's a good product that's on the basketball court for sure. But a couple of things that struck me last night. The first is the pace that they're playing at down in Stockton. They're playing at, or at least trying to play at, a very similar pace to that of the Kings. When the opponent scores, they're trying to push the ball. And so I liked seeing that. Now, the guys that I got to see, there were two ways. Isaiah Crawford played last night. Mason Jones played last night. Colby Jones, the guy that I was down there to see the most, he played. He has been assigned to Stockton right now to get some extra run with them. And then also Terry Taylor. He was a guy that I really wanted to see. Terry Taylor was a name, TT, that came up in training camp. He was with the Kings for training camp. Mike Brown had a couple of nice things to say about him. And then obviously Mason Jones. I love Mason Jones. I've been on the record saying this. I think that every team needs a guy like Mason Jones on it, just from an energy standpoint, a balance standpoint, a funness, keeping it fresh. His energy is freaking contagious, and he just always keeps it interesting. And he did last night. It was fun watching him go back and forth with the other team's coach. It was a lot of fun watching him kind of chit chat with the referees here and there, and so on and so forth. But the game, again, it was good. It was competitive. Now, Colby Jones, who I was there to watch the most, he didn't shoot the ball particularly well. We all know that the offensive end for Colby is the end that needs to be worked on. Before Mike Brown got fired, Colby was getting more confidence from that coaching staff, and Colby seemed to be getting a little confidence in himself defensively. He was a big part, played a big part in the road game against Memphis. If you remember, the Kings played a really good first quarter and a half. Then there was a stoppage in the game, and then they come back, and Memphis starts pouring it on. And even though Ja tried to shoot the Grizzlies out of the game, they end up winning it. But the Kings made it interesting in the third and fourth quarters, and that was largely due to Keon Ellis and Colby Jones, both on the defensive ends. Colby had an excellent game. And before that game, Colby had been getting spot duty here and there defensively and had performed well, earned a little bit of Mike Brown's trust. That even bleeded into almost right up until the end of Mike Brown's tenure here in Sacramento. There was a game where Colby was instrumental. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but Colby was instrumental on the defensive end to what the Kings did that night, and was huge, absolutely huge. So Colby is not a super big guy per se. He doesn't play bigger than he is. He's quick. He's a little bit elusive, not as athletic as a Fox or a Monk, but he's tough. He was getting in there. He was mixing it up. The thing that I really liked about Colby last night, the thing that I was watching, was the little tricks of the trade. Colby has now spent a year and a half around this Kings team, this an NBA team. And by that time, through practicing with De'Aaron Fox, through practicing with Malik Monk, from being around those coaches, there's these little tricks of the trade that you'll expect some of these guys to pick up when it's guarding a guy, whether it's on-ball defense, it's knowing the right places to put your hand, it's knowing where you can push, where you can't. And I saw those little things from Colby defensively. Offensively, from Colby, I wanted to see his decision-making. His decision-making was not bad last night. In fact, I thought his decision-making was pretty darn good. The one thing that I was a little bit disappointed in, and something that is going to have for him to improve, for him to take that step and maybe do something for this Kings team in the next couple of years, is his ball handling, being able to handle the pressure. I think that being able to make the common play, having confidence in yourself to make the common play, because at times Colby can make the uncommon play, which is a really good trait to have. But sometimes I think he struggles to make the common play. So that is still a work in progress in Stockton. Now, for as much as I love Mason Jones, I think Mason Jones's NBA days have passed. Unless something changes, I just don't see Mace really making it back. And I know he's a two-way guy. I don't see him getting a roster spot with this Kings team and having an impact on this Kings team. Mace has done a lot to change his body. Again, I go back to the energy. I go back to the type of player he is, scrappy, always pushing things. But I just think the ship has sailed a little bit for Mason Jones, and this franchise. Doesn't mean that he couldn't get another chance somewhere else, but as a G League player, Mason Jones is excellent. He's a joy to watch. Plays a great role for that Stockton team. And on nights where he is shooting the ball well, he is a lot of fun to watch, and he's good for the team. Really good too. He has a very good basketball awareness. Many times when that shot clock is clicking down and getting, to 2-1, he might not be looking at it, but he feels it and he knows it. And that's important when you are a basketball player. Terry Taylor, Isaiah Crawford, nothing really jumped off the charts to me about him last night. I think for the position he plays, he's a little bit undersized. I think he's a little bit timid. That may come with time. I think he needs to put some strength on. Now, Terry Taylor is the guy that really impressed the hell out of me last night. Terry Taylor's got kind of this funky left-handed shot, and I don't want to say it's funky. It's think about, this is a weird analogy. Think about the way that Zion Williamson plays basketball. Now, Terry Taylor isn't the bowling ball that Zion Williamson is, but he's got that left-handed dribble and he's got that left-handed shot and he's kind of got a mini Zion feel to him. He doesn't take over a game like Zion, but the style of his game can go both ways. He can shoot the three. He can also get a little bit downhill on his own. But his three-point shot, at least last night, it was clicking. And I wasn't just looking at whether it went in or not. I was looking at the mechanics. I was looking at the spin on the basketball. I was looking at when it hits the rim, how soft it's coming off. And all of those things are there. His size isn't bad. His quickness is, I think, the thing that is holding him back to a degree. But I thought Terry, for me last night, was probably one of the more impressive players that I saw in Stockton for the Kings. Scal Labissiere, what can I say about him? Consummate professional. Love watching Scal. He knows his NBA days are past, but what he's doing in Stockton, incredibly important. And by the way, what the coach, Quentin, doing down there, Gabriel Harris, the GM, they've got plans for this team, and they are running this team so damn well. I'm telling you. They're running it really, really well. They're getting these guys ready for the next level, and they're also putting a good product on the court. They're putting a balanced product on the court. You can definitely tell watching this Stockton team play that each guy has different roles on this team, and it's really fun to see. Dexter Dennis, he had 16 points last night. He's kind of a mystery to me. His defense was actually pretty good. I just don't have a real big opinion on him yet. I need to watch him play again. And I'll watch him play on Saturday night if that game continues to go off. No Isaac Jones in that one. Boogie Ellis also was out. Now, this was an interesting treat really quick last night. Anybody know who that is? I'm gonna let you look at that picture for a second and take some guesses. Jack Attack, fan base is just really disrespectful to him considering the impact on the turnaround of the franchise. Fox deserves any contract he asks for. Who's saying Fox doesn't deserve a contract, Jack? I don't think anybody should be disrespectful to Fox. You're saying he's better than Brunson? I disagree with you. Are you saying De'Aaron Fox is better than both those guys? There's no way. Absolutely not, Jack. Jalen Brunson, the way he runs the pick and roll, that in itself is more valuable. Jack, dude, you know I love you, man. But I think you got those Fox goggles on. At his best, he's a top 8 player in the league. He's one of the greatest facilitators. Are you talking about De'Aaron Fox? You're saying De'Aaron Fox is one of the greatest facilitators in the league? Jack, my man. Jack, are you day drinking? Jack, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to De'Aaron. I really like De'Aaron. And Jack, you're my boy, Jack.
Blue, you're my boy! Thank you, sir.
But Jack, come on, man. Best top 8 facilitators in the league? Malik Monk is a better facilitator than De'Aaron Fox. That's where I'm saying we have to separate skill set versus fit. And I don't think a lot of Kings fans are doing that right now. Skill set versus fit in what this team wants to do as a whole, the way they want to play. Is that Deuce Mason? No, it is not Deuce Mason. So who that is, check this out. That is the son of Hall of Famer John Stockton. That's David Stockton. Get that name off the screen. I don't like that dude. That is David Stockton. It was so funny because I watched him last night. I had no idea he played for the Valley Suns, but I'm watching him play. And I'm like, and I'm not looking at the name on the back of his jersey. I'm like, this dude looks like John Stockton. And I'm like, this guy's got like the same haircut as John Stockton. And then I'm like, this guy's got that same kind of hunch, like where he's a little bit over like that with his shoulders, like John Stockton. And I'm like, this guy plays like John Stockton. And he comes back down the court, last name Stockton, David Stockton. He was a handful last night. And I'm not talking about from a scoring sense. Yeah, he hit a crazy shot, by the way. He hit an insane shot with the clock running down. But the way he facilitated last night, you would have thought you were watching a mini John Stockton. Not as good as his dad, obviously, because he would be in the NBA, but the way he plays basketball, it reminds you so much of what his dad did. Yes, he is smaller than John as well. But the guy yesterday who was the man for the Valley Suns, Tutu Washington, this guy can play some basketball. Pay attention, or excuse me, not Tutu, Tai. Make sure you pay attention to that name. Tai Washington Jr. He had 31 last night. And his game translates. He was the one player on the floor last night that I said he will be in the NBA. Not saying he's going to come and be a massive impact guy. Tai Washington will be in the NBA at some point. That is a name that you will hear. He's got a smooth shot. He's got a smoothness to his game. But overall, a very good experience in Stockton. I'm going to be back there on Saturday. I have a great time covering the team. I got to, again, catch up with some of the people in the organization, some of the familiar faces that all of you know around the Sacramento Kings. I got to catch up with a couple of them as well. So it was a great time, some very good conversations, some great basketball. Again, I give my shining endorsement. Win or lose, go to Stockton. You're going to see a team that plays hard. They play a very similar style offensively to the Kings, a lot of pick and roll, definitely some DHO here and there. They've got some guys that, again, play roles like they should, that are going to be G League players. They'll be nothing more than G League players, but they are great G League players. And I shouldn't say great, very good and solid G League players. So keep an eye, though, on Terry Taylor. I'm going to be keeping an eye on him. He finished with 23 last night. In fact, this was Terry hitting a shot down the clutch last night. Smoothness to his game, a big smoothness to his game that I really, really like. So that was my Stockton recap. We'll have another one after I go on Saturday. We're going to get ready, Stockton and Stockton. Where can I see the Stockton Kings on TV? ESPN Plus. You got to be a member of ESPN Plus. You can check him out. So, all right, we're going to get ready to get out. Thank you to everybody for being here today. We've had a full day talking about Keon, talking about this team. Is Foxy still going to be a game time decision? Again, he got some work in yesterday with Luke Laux. Kings and Boston tomorrow. Probably one of the toughest tests of the season so far. Definitely the honeymoon is over. The bump in energy, the winning bump that you get from changing coaches is over. It starts tomorrow in Boston. Looking forward to that one. We're going to have full coverage right here on If You Don't Like That. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. Again, thank you to everybody for your support. Again, if you are just joining us, somebody that I know in the Stockton organization, I was talking with them last night. They do take in this show and some of the other shows here on If You Don't Like That. And one of the coolest and best compliments that they said was they love the community around the show. And that's all of you. And that's because you guys have created a cool community. You've gotten to know each other. You contribute to the show. They like the personalities. It's more than just tuning in. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's a lot of fun. So thank you. That's a huge compliment to all you. Really appreciate it. Make sure you also look for the King's Course Court on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. You'll get exclusive audio over there. In fact, you got one of those yesterday. So go check it out. As for us, we will be back tomorrow, wrapping up the week. And then we've got full coverage of the Kings and the Celtics from Boston, early game. So make sure that you are paying attention to the YouTube page, also our social media accounts. We are looking forward to getting you the pregame, the halftime with Jerry Reynolds, and the postgame tomorrow night for the Kings and the Celtics. Coach Christie, break us down.
That's big time shit. Together on three, y'all. 1, 2, 3. Together.
Go Kings. Light the damn beam. Stay the hell away from Levine. Court is dismissed.